I made top 16 at DLC Seattle with this deck, guys. What is up, everyone? Welcome to Lore Games. My name is Alvin. Today we are covering my top 16 list from DLC Seattle, STEEL-FASA, the MVP, guys. And before we get started with our deck list, I want to give a huge shout out to all of our YouTube community members. Thank you so much for the continued support. And if you would like to know how to join, press the join button for more details. Having that said, let's go straight into our deck list. We're going to start with our 1-drops here, guys. Our Cinderella, Singer 3, plus the Shift, because she's insanely strong. Let's put them down here. We got 3 of the Shift, and the Song package, 4 Storm, plus 2 Strength. I will say this, Cindy put in a lot of work. 4 songs felt like the sweet spot. My Mufasa did not whiff any time at all during the whole tournament, during 10, 11, during 11 games, 9, 10, 11, yes, during 11 games, Mufasa did not hit any songs. So I think 6 is the sweet spot. I wouldn't go over that. I wouldn't feel very confident going over 6 songs or 6 non-characters. But I do like the Strength of Raging Fire a bit more because it is inkable and it has the potential to deal more damage. Cinderella put in a lot of work. She puts a lot of pressure. And even if I didn't have the song, I would still play her out on turn 1. My opponent doesn't know if I have it, so they're going to play around it. The Cinderella Shift came out twice with Mufasa. I shifted onto my little Cindy so many times to go for game or just put on that big Cinderella pressure. She's a hard one to get rid of. But that is our song package here. And again, really quick, I would probably do more Strength instead of Storm, or maybe 3 Strength, 3 Storm. But I do like the songs in there. The flexibility of the songs was very, very clutch. Now we're gonna go into our aggro package. We have 4 Daisies, 4 Smees, and 4 of our Piglets. So Daisy Duck, even going second, I would play her out. The possibility of her getting dealt damage. She has 4 willpower, and then healing with Rapunzel came up so many times. Smee, also a really great target for Rapunzel, and the Piglet, well, you know, Piglet quest for 3, so he's incredibly strong. These were my MVPs against Red Blue. So many times where I kept the Daisy and the Smee in my mulligan, just because that curve is a little stronger than Daisy Piglet. Piglet came up sometimes where I played him out mid-game or late game where I had the chance to go for game. But yeah, these guys put in a lot of work. Smee is a powerhouse, guys. Smee is a powerhouse. His 3 Strength helped me so much against the locations deck that was on stream. Okay, coming up on our 3-cost characters, we have the Dockman, our MVP Ramp, Lawrence, the MVP Challenger, and Pete, the Song Stopper. So Doc is incredibly strong because he quests for 2. So he's very aggressive. Doc is aggressive, guys. So he has the aggro component to him. He can quest for 2. He is inkable, and he can bring out your 5 costs on turn 4. Usually, I played a Chienpo bodyguard because he protects the Doc and the rest of your characters. And Chienpo is an absolute powerhouse. The Doc is very flexible because he is inkable. I wouldn't change him out for the Gaston. I value the 2 questing and his ability to be inked a little bit more than the Gaston. Plus, I ran more 5-drops. So 6-drop or Gaston didn't make too much sense if I'm not playing that many 6-drops. I would build the deck a little differently if I was playing the Gaston. But moving on to Lawrence, he's a 4/4 character, amazing stat line, his 4 willpower. This guy paired so well with Rapunzel. So many times where he challenged, survives, I heal with Rapunzel and he's back to 4/4, plus you draw 3 cards. Challenging there's so many 3 strength characters, especially in purple. There's a Snake, there's also Bonsai. Green Purple had a really tough time dealing with the Lawrence, especially with the threat of having a Rapunzel in hand. Sometimes they didn't even do anything to him. And lastly, also, Lawrence into red, blue, so good. So good. The curve of Daisy Duck, Smee into Lawrence was absolutely broken. Hands down, so broken. Pete, when you have game on board, you slap him down and you win. You do quest for a lot. So being the ability to drop Pete once you have game on board is so good. Plus, most of your characters are big, so big Sisu doesn't do too much into these boards unless they're mega ice blocking, of course. And also Pete going second into Steel Songs or Green Steel. When they play their Ursula 3-drop, Pete foils their plans, you strength the following turn. That came up a few times. So thank you, Pete. Thank you, Lawrence. And thank you, Mr. Duck. The best draw engine, Rapunzel. I kept her all of the time. I always kept her on my mulligan because her ability is absolutely broken. Heal a character and draw cards, pair it with Smee, pair it with Lawrence, pair it with Chien-Po, guys. Rapunzel overperformed, hands down. She always stayed in my hand after the mulligan. Plus, she's a 1/5/2 quester. Like what? She's very good. And also, your opponents have a tough time turning their characters sideways when there's a Chien-Po or a Lawrence on the field because Rapunzel is such a huge threat. Here is our Tinkerbell package. We have 3 Tinks, read her in just a second, and 4 Shift Tinks. So the little Tink says when you play this character, you may look at the top 4 cards of your deck and add a character to your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of your deck in any order. 1/4, awesome stat line. She's a 4-drop. She is an inkable, but I usually played her. Most of the time I played her out just because she says draw a card and you get to choose what card you need. So the ability to dig for her shift or for Rapunzel or for a Mufasa for your turn 5 came up so many times. Plus, people don't expect you to shift onto her with Big Tink. So this card, these 2 cards, won me both games against Locations. If you guys saw the stream, they put in so much work, guys. And they literally did win me 2 games against Locations. Both games into Locations deck. The Amber Steel Locations in top 32. Let's cover our 5 drops. We have 3 Beast, sad boy. 4 Poe. The 5 costs were the MVPs. I think Beast is a flex spot, but there were quite a few times where going first, dock quests, and you play a Beast on 4. That came up a lot of times. But more often was Chien-Po to protect the dock and to protect the rest of your characters, or the Mufasa is always a solid 5-drop. If you play Mufasa down, then it's kind of like an insurance against B-Prep or just insurance overall. Him high rolling into a big character changes the tide of the game so much that I always felt really safe playing him, especially into the red decks. Like the red decks can deal with him, but because he replaces himself, gives you such good tempo and such good pressure post B-Prep. The Beast, whenever I played him out, I ended up either questing or challenging, usually questing, because this deck is very aggressive. Most of these characters are questing for 2, except for a few. And you just want to quest and get to 20 as fast as you can and have your opponent deal with your characters, which are beefy. Chien-Po, Beast, and we're going to go into our last one. But Mufasa, MVP, has always been the MVP. He's inkable, powerhouse. And you can notice that we don't run a lot of uninkables. That's because I prefer consistency. And this is an uninkable, and it's also a flex spot. But oh my goodness, when he comes down, your opponent has a lot on their plate. They have to deal with the 9/9 quest for 3. And usually, there were times where he was just stuck in my hand because I didn't have any characters in my banish pile. And there were times, there were quite a few times, actually 2 times, where Mufasa hit him off the top and you play the Chernobog and he just puts so much pressure on the board. But this is a flex spot. I would actually prefer a inkable character, maybe a beast or maybe something else, but he did put in some work. So having that said, going over the deck profile, I think a few changes I would make to the deck is cut the Chernobog, cut some uninkables, and possibly try the Queen line instead of the Cindy line. It did put in a lot of work. Obviously, it got me all the way to top 16, but there's a few changes that I would make. The biggest struggle that this deck had was dealing with green steel and amber steel songs. Dealing with a Diablo, you need to see your song. You absolutely need to see your song so you can remove the Diablo, because other than that, there's no removal. And also, they have a way to play around the Mufasa. They bounce it to your hand and they discard it, and you're just done. The strong matchups, the good matchups that were good for this deck were green-purple and red-blue. Red-blue usually has a really good time into amber steel songs, and that's one of the reasons why I chose to go with this deck as opposed to amber steel songs, because I figured there's going to be a lot of red-blue. And playing amber steel songs, last DLC, I didn't do that well because I saw so much red-blue. And then this time I said, you know what? Mufasa can handle that. And he did. I played 5 red-blue decks and I beat 4 and I lost 2-1. So that was my turnout. And I was very, very happy with the aggression of this deck. Daisy into a Smee or a Piglet into a Lawrence. It was a very, very, very strong start. And when they start ramping and they get to their B prep, then that's usually the turn when you play out the Mufasa. They end up B prepping, Mufasa hits something else and just puts additional pressure on the board. And I usually kept the Mufasas, the Daisy Ducks. Even though Daisy Duck, even going second, I would keep Daisy Duck because her and Rapunzel pair up really well. Plus, she puts in a lot of pressure, and they feel like they have to handle the Daisy Duck before doing anything else. They prioritize her removal. So that threw off a lot of my opponent's game plans, but this deck put in so much work, and I'm so happy on how it turned out. And of course, really happy on the results. Mufasa, you're the MVP. I do plan on playing with Mufasa next set. I don't know what variation or what direction to take with this deck, and obviously, you know, I try out different decks all the time, so it's going to be in there, and we will be shooting a live. And guys, make sure to tune in tomorrow for our live. I'm not going to let you know what I'm going to be playing, but it's going to be something different as usual. We're always trying different decks, guys. That's how we get better at the game, right? And also, another big shout out to our YouTube community members. And if you're interested, check the join button, click on it, check out all the details. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in today. I will see you next time.